we're going sex scene to sex scene to sex scene. I'm just getting the same thing over and over again.
Whatever our souls are made of, yours and mine are made of the same.
Oh yeah, class, fantastic.
I'm talking about you.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
And today we are reviewing Wuthering Heights, in quotation marks, Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights. But in order to kind of talk about Wuthering Heights, I thought it would be best to kind of talk about film adaptations as a whole, because that's kind of been the topic on everybody's mind. Like, what does it mean to adapt a book and leave out massive chunks of it and subtext and all kinds of stuff? Can you do that? Should you do that? Have adaptations done that before and worked, etc., etc.? So yeah, a broader discussion on film adaptations. But to begin with, Kris, like, how are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good. I mean, like, I saw you 10 hours ago.
Yeah.
And we were good. Alex and I were playing video games last night, and that was great. I had a really nice time doing that, catching up with you. It makes me, it's always nice to go into an episode kind of like having a really close back to back like that. I feel limbered up already, you know. Don't have to do the mouth exercises or anything like that. How are you anyway, Alex, since last night?
I'm good. I enjoyed playing. We were playing Split Fiction together. We've Kris has played through it before, but this is kind of like my first time, and I was thinking a lot about kind of like Emily Bronte being sucked into that device that takes all her memories and how it would visualize Wuthering Heights.
Actually, you were thinking about how Sydney Sweeney will translate into the role when the film adaptation of Split Fiction comes around.
Yes, there was a lot of talk about that because I think she is attached to play one of the characters. It was like pretty much immediately after it released, it was like, we're gonna make a film, and the rights have been picked up, and Sydney Sweeney's been attached.
Yeah, it's like one of those straight out of the barrel things where it's like I felt like a reaction as opposed to like a well thought out premeditated thing. And I don't know if that project still exists. I have to check in on that.
Yeah.
But
is it adaptable, Kris?
It is. Well, I mean, like, it's about books, but translating books into virtual reality. But the thing that translates really well into a video game, that story isn't why you stay though.
No.
It's paper thin, no pun intended. But like they're gonna do it anyway. It looks like
It's the gameplay that's fun. It's I think like visually it's stunning. But yes, I find it's the kind of like constant re-energize. Like, now you're doing this, now you're doing that, and you're like, oh, tapping into like your brain a little bit and being like, oh, I have to like change the way I play all of a sudden. And yeah, I'm not sure you can't get that in a film, but there you go. That is an element of adaptation that's always struggled, isn't it? Like game to film adaptations, and I'm not sure there's been many.
I like the Sonic movies. I think they're a lot of fun.
Yes, I forgot you have a soft touch for those films.
I like those, and they get actually incrementally better as they go, I think, too. So, a lot of fun. But yeah, it is famously like a doomed concept to adapt a game into a movie. And I think they just recently did it a couple of weeks ago with they did another stab at Silent Hill.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which I've heard only terrible things about. I think it's added to the canon of stinkers in the adaptation portfolio of video games. But I love adaptations as a topic in general, especially when it comes to a remake of an older film, or in this case certainly book to film. And I think it's really fascinating because it's such a shared experience, and it's very emotional to people. That it's a book, say you read a Harper Lee To Kill a Mockingbird, or a book like that's so grandiose and classical, and it's formative in your youth, and you read it and you have a version of that sticks with you your entire life, and then suddenly a filmmaker you appreciate or are interested in says, "I'm gonna make it into a film," and you're like, "Oh, I wonder how much of me I am gonna see in this or my experience of this novel." I mean, that seems like a hubristic sort of, like, way of looking at it, but it's a very human way of looking at it. We were it's just these stories feel like our own. Whenever you read it on the page and you're conjuring up the imagery, albeit it's aided by the wording and the novelist's, you know, way that they've written the story, it's you that kind of formed the world and the characters in your head. And it's, you have to kind of like tear away from that whenever you go to the cinema and understand that it's not your version. And it's
And
such
and
a, it,
sometimes they
yeah,
capture it in a way that's like, "This is exactly how I thought it was gonna look," and, like, this is and then that feeling is also,
mhm,
great, but it's kind of one of those things, isn't it? You like, I take myself away from this because reading a book is so personal and the images you conjure up in your mind. Like, do you conjure up, like, real people when you're reading a book?
100%. I'm not like a
Oh.
speed reader. I am somebody who will I really love, especially I love reading fantasy. And
Mhm.
whenever I read fantasy, I love to picture the world built. If it's a good writer, I love to really get my feet dirty and really try to picture the entire 360 like panorama around me whenever I'm reading a novel. I don't really like to deal with slight abstract thoughts of what the world looks like. I
Mhm.
really like to feel like I'm in the world. Yeah.
But do you, like, cast actors in your mind? Are you
N
like
no, no, I don't. I don't actually. I
no.
think whenever I was a teenager, I would do that, and um, it would always dampen the experience for me because it was
Mm.
just turning into a movie in my head and not a book. And I really just like to rely on the author's skill to paint the character and just form a human being in my mind. Um,
Yes.
it's all just me. It's just
Yeah,
me.
my I feel like when I picture the main characters, I almost it's like very vague. It's almost as if their face is kind of like interchangeable. But there's an archetype. You
So
know what I
you're
mean?
like, well, I guess that's you getting used to the character.
Yeah.
You're at the start, you're introduced to the character,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
more you get to know about them, the more they become three-dimensional. Your view of them changes, right?
Yes.
So their outward appearance would change too.
Yes. But
But
it is annoying sometimes when an adaptation comes out and then all of a sudden all you can picture are
that
the
sucks.
other people that play them on film or TV. I think like that was very much the experience when I was like reading the Harry Potter books. And then obviously the films come out and then all of a sudden those actors are so like iconic as those characters you can't think of anything else.
It's almost like whenever you if you read the book after watching the books after watching Harry Potter, it's almost like you're just watching Harry Potter plus the deleted scenes when you read it.
Yes.
It's got that element to it. And I think probably Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, all these big major
Yes.
franchises, it's so hard to separate yourself from them. I know you did your research. We're both coming from different angles this episode.
Mm,
And I know you did your research and you read Wuthering Heights
I
by
did.
Emily Bronte in anticipation for the episode, which is a fascinating, way of approaching this particular adaptation because I think it kind of really sold itself early on, going like, "This is not the book. This is like this is this is
I'd already
my."
started the book.
I know, I know. I guess that famous interview of Emerald Fennell saying, "This is my 14-year-old self." Reflecting on my experience of reading the book and adapting that experience and making that a movie.
Yes, and
And
everything
then you're
like
like,
I
"Shit, I'm already on
remember.
chapter 10."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, her experience was like everything I remember and kinda misremember, and yeah, it's interesting because I think even her saying that, like, causes quite a lot of backlash in terms of, like, yeah,
Yeah,
you
you're
mi
like, so you've taken this idea of your memory of reading the book. Okay, so whenever you go to make the movie, are you going back to the text then? Are you actually approaching this a different way? It
mm,
seems as soon as you go back and read the book again as an adult and start to delve deep into it, that vision must kind of leave you, automatically.
yeah, yeah, it's an interesting one, and I like the approach, I think is quite interesting, especially when
Yeah.
it's, like a classic book that's been adapted many a time. So it's kind of like, all right, you're putting a different spin on it. Though I not to kind of like dampen the mood immediately. And I don't want to be the guy because we can get into this. I don't want to be the guy that's like it wasn't like that in the book, but there are
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
elements of this film that take away so much from the or like kind of misremember or misinterpret things from the book or change things from the book that then try and come back later in to be more close to the book. And it's like, oh, now that piece of the puzzle doesn't make as much sense. But yeah, I think it is interesting because I've come into this with, very, very recently finishing the book. So I'm not like, oh, I've always loved this book my whole life and what are they doing to it? Like I'm just like, oh, I very much enjoyed the book. I probably enjoy the book even more now after seeing the film because I'm kind of like, oh, the way the way that Emerald Fennell has like kind of not done it correctly kind of makes me go like, oh, Wuthering Heights is its like own entity that is like quite special and quite different and very difficult to adapt, I
yeah.
think. But yeah, we can get into that. We can get into that. But like, what do you want from an adaptation when you've gone into a film with a book that you've loved? What are you hoping? Do you try and separate yourself, or are you happy for filmmakers to be like, this is a different medium? And I'm gonna have to do this a different way because, reading something and watching something, especially because when you read something, it's like 8 to 9 hours potentially of your time,
Yeah.
over weeks sometimes, you know what I mean? Months even. I think it took me about 2 months to finish Wuthering Heights. I was
Wow.
quite I
Yeah.
was quite slow on that one, but it was over Christmas, alright? Um,
Yeah, and you're dealing with text that's written circa 1840s. So,
yes.
the way dialogue and inner monologue is written is completely different to how
Yeah, and
it's written
it's
today.
structured very, differently, like, the POV stuff is quite interesting, and I always had this idea in my mind of what Wuthering Heights might be, and then, like, getting into the book, and then within, like, the first chapter, you're like, "Oh,
Mm.
this is not that. This is dark and miserable, but in a fun way,
So, were
and
you thinking
gray."
more like a Jane Austen affair where it's much more
Yeah.
mannered, posturing across dinner tables and parties and things like that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be romantic. It is yeah, it is not, it is
It's not
not.
romantic.
It's not romantic, it's like a ghostly gothic
Mm.
revenge story.
I guess the
Uh,
Brontes in general, all the sisters are kind of that's their thing. We're kind of
mm,
that haunted, ghostly aspect. And Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte has that very similar vibe to it. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, tell me more about your kind of feelings on adaptation.
It's complex, isn't it? Because
Mm,
I think when it comes to those movies we mentioned earlier on, when it comes to big epic sci-fi and fantasy, I think, and you hear that Warner Brothers or a big studio like that is getting a property like this, and we've only got one stab at this. If this doesn't really work, then I think we want to see an all-encompassing. We want the book, don't we? We want the book as well adapted onto screen as possible,
mhm,
and
mhm.
I do think people like deserve that opportunity to watch something that is, you know, it's something that's a 50-year-old piece of text and material that is so beloved and brought to screen and done as well as possible. And that has there's been many examples of that, like Lord of the Rings. Um, Even though that obviously takes liberties and takes things away from the book because there's abstract things that just don't work on screen. But then there's the old time where I'm like, I find it fascinating when like Baz Luhrmann is like, well, what kids are gonna be interested in The Great Gatsby and what it has to say, But no, to be fair, but
Yeah.
what like it's a romantic tragedy and it's a very simple 250-page novella that I really
Mhm,
enjoyed as
mhm.
as a teenager. But I want to bring this, I want to inject with a little bit of life, and then that movie ended up like teens were going to see it 5, 6, 7 times, and we're listening to the soundtrack every week, and that did a really good job at like giving that book a bit of a facelift for a modern generation, and not to take away from older adaptations of it. It just took away the sniffly aspects of that.
And
But
it did a very interesting thing with the music, which we can kind of come back to
yeah,
later on today, which is, using modern music in a period piece and using kind of like big artists to kind of interpret that. that kind of narrative through song in their own way. Um, I don't remember loving The Great Gatsby, but I
Mm.
do remember loving the soundtrack, and I remember
Yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe that was the problem was I was listening to the soundtrack before the film came out because I was like,
Oh,
"This
same.
this is great," and then when you watch it on the film, I was just like, "Oh, this isn't, like, nearly as exciting as the soundtrack."
You got basically every big pop star of
Mm,
2012 to be on that album and write an original song
yeah.
for it, yeah.
I
From
think they
Kanye West to Lana Del Rey, everybody wrote a song for that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, maybe a good thing that they released the Charlie XCX album at the same time as the film. I know there was a couple of singles for Wuthering Heights, but,
Yeah,
I think to be fair, maybe I haven't done my full research for this, but I haven't listened to the whole album yet. I've
same.
just
I
listened
really
to a few
want
songs.
to. I've
Yeah,
heard
no, I
great
just
things.
trying to find the right time to, like, sit down and listen to it. But, like, I like the songs that they use, and I like
Yeah, and there were
certain
less there were when they were in them, it was prominent, but it was less songs in there than I was expecting it to be,
Yes.
considering that Charlie XCX had written a whole album for it. So it seems like
Yes.
it's more of a companion piece, so I'm looking forward to
Yes.
enjoying it that way, and maybe I will be able to tap into, like, both, Emerald Fennell and her collaboration with Charlie XCX and what emotionally Wuthering Heights means to her,
Mm.
and maybe that's kind of where the film is. Before we talk about it, is I feel like emotionally she kind of knows internally what that means to her, but is unable to sort of translate that on screen in a way that's kind of effective or universal. So I think it's a film with a nugget of an emotional idea, but it doesn't um it doesn't grow beyond that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think adaptations are a really hard thing. I do think when it's something like Wuthering Heights, and again, I'm going to cinema and I'm seeing an 80-year-old woman sitting beside her granddaughter who's like in her mid-20s, and I'm like, oh, I can tell that this piece of text means so much to you, and you've probably been waiting for a big screen adaptation like this for years. And I'm like, well, if Emerald
Since the last one.
since the last one, but I mean, I think Wuthering Heights, there was the big adaptation in the '90s with Ralph Fiennes, but I don't think it was ever as like a
Yes.
bombastic affair. They've always been smaller movies.
Yes,
Um,
and only a lot of them only adapt the first half of the book, which is what Emerald Fennell's, uh, adaptation does as well. I believe, and I didn't get around to watching the Ralph Fiennes one. I've heard it's a bit dull,
yeah,
but it is one of the only adaptations, like film-wise anyway, to adapt the full book rather than just the first
interesting.
half, which I
Yeah.
think is more I think the second half is more interesting personally.
So
Uh
why do you think that filmmakers are trepidatious about approaching the second half, the back end of the novel, and putting it on screen? Is it time jumps? Is it structurally, does it just not work as a film, or do you think that it's a missed opportunity?
All of the above, all of the above.
Okay.
All right. So, girls, I think like in order to talk about Wuthering Heights, which is a book that's over 100 years old, we kind of have to spoil the film and the book a little bit
Mhm.
as we talk about this. I don't think these spoilers are probably ones that people have heard for years, so I don't think it's crazy to just kind of talk about this openly. But if you've gotten to this point and you're like, I don't really know Wuthering Heights that well, and I want to see the new film, then obviously maybe pause and come back. But if you're not too fussed about kind of like the whole thing and you have a general sense of what Wuthering Heights is, we're kind of gonna go into like bits of that.
Mhm.
Um, so the main issue with adapting the second half of the book of Wuthering Heights is obviously that your main character, kind of in the first half of the book, is Kathy, and she's died. She's dead. Heathcliff is in the second half of the book. He's still alive, but he is very much the villain of the story, and he's more of a presence that looms over the story
Okay.
rather than kind of like he's
Vampiric presence sort of thing? Is it,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like he is essentially committing his revenge on everybody. So your Edgars, your Isabellas, and so in the book, Kathy does have a child who's also named Kathy, and Heathcliff has a child via Isabella. and so it's more focused on the children.
Right. It's the
And
aftermath of what these two people have sown in their lives, right?
yes, and then Heathcliff then kind of using his newfound wealth to kind of manipulate his way into owning both Wuthering Heights and Thrush Range, and basically, yeah, kind of everybody who was involved in the story and was part of the separation of Kathy and Heathcliff in that first half of the book,
Mm.
just ends up living a very miserable life. And it's not like a woo he did it. It is like, oh, he's evil and abusive as well. But because of, and this is like the big elephant in the room with this new adaptation, because he is not a white man in the
Yeah.
books. Uh, this idea that everybody around him early on in his life kind of othered him because of both class and race. Um, it is, he is getting his revenge on that, but it's how a society can look at a man like Heathcliff, other him away from everybody else, separate him, and push him to the sides of society, can obviously then change him to become like this horrible person. So I can see why as well it's kind of like, oh, if I do cast a person of color here, I am going to have to end up villainizing them. So I can see that thinking, but it is still odd in this day and age, in this modern world.
Mm. Yeah.
And because I think it's such a massive aspect of the book, to cast anybody who is just like a white man as the place of Heathcliff. Like his race is somewhat ambiguous, like his ethnicity is ambiguous. It's not, it's not like, oh, he's a black guy or he's this or he's that, but it's like he's definitely something.
Yeah,
But
he is atypical of Yorkshire or Yorkshire
yes,
moors
yes,
lifestyle. Yes,
I can
yeah,
tell you what he isn't, and he isn't white.
yeah, yeah.
you know, so
Well,
yeah, I am surprised that like even now, as we adapt this book, the race part's just left out because I think it is really interesting.
and give
Uh,
me just a really like an understanding of how this story sort of ends emotionally. Does it like it sounds quite like a dour second half? Does that keep going downwards and like keep steeping into that misery, or do we get some sort of like well-rounded, like encapsulating like moment of I don't know eureka or like at the end of this or
yeah, so there is like so I'm gonna have to go into like smaller
that
characters
that's
and
fine. That's
and,
fine.
and all kinds of stuff. Okay, so let's get, and I appreciate we're kind of all over the place. But let's all right. So let's go
Well,
to the
I
book.
it's because I sort of need to understand if we're talking about this as an adaptation and where Emerald Fennell is coming from, I kind of want to understand like where the book ends us,
Yeah,
um, as opposed to where she ends us, and it kind of like that makes it a little bit more interesting, I suppose.
gotcha. Okay, so book ends us. No, film ends us. Kathy's dead. In the
Hmm.
book, this is halfway through. And like I say, Kathy has a child. Isabella has fled. The relationship between her and Heathcliff is very abusive towards her. It's not like a wink, wink. I'm kind of in on it. It is like she is. She writes a letter to Nellie, being like, "This man is horrible," and Catherine was right the whole time. Like he is awful. He's the worst person. He's being so cruel to me. She flees. I think it's to like Liverpool or something like that, and has his child.
Right.
And then obviously Catherine's dead, and Heathcliff is like upset, and he's he does the whole thing like come back and haunt me, all that kind of stuff, and he goes mad by her death. Bit of a time jump. Kathy's getting older, as in like Catherine's daughter Kathy is getting older. Isabella dies. We don't know where she is. We haven't seen her again, but she dies, and her child is sent to Thrushcross Range because obviously Edgar's there, and his cousin Kathy.
Hmm.
Uh, but he is almost immediately taken away by Heathcliff because Heathcliff's like, well, he's my son, so he's coming with me, and he's very sickly, and Heathcliff basically just abuses him, is horrible to him, keeps him in Wuthering Heights, and just is just awful to him. There is another character I should probably talk about. So in the books, Catherine has a brother called Hindley,
Okay.
and the in the film, the father and Hindley are kind of merged together to create one. So the father in
Oh,
the
okay.
books is actually really lovely. He's the only person at the start who kind of likes Heathcliff, and he favors him. And Hindley hates that. He hates that his father favors this kind of this street boy essentially. And Hindley is incredibly horrible and bullies Heathcliff, and so does Kathy, original Kathy, to begin with. But then she starts to kind of like develop a fondness for him, especially when Hindley goes off to college.
Hmm.
Father dies. Hindley comes back. I'm going way back and forth on the book right here. Hindley comes back. He now has a wife. Wife dies in childbirth, and they have a son called Heriton, I think it's pronounced. Uh,
Catchy.
and yes, so but then it ensues in the same way that in the film where Heathcliff kind of gambles with Hindley, but it's the father in the
Hmm.
film, and he's an alcoholic and he dies, and basically gambles up his money and sells Wuthering Heights to Heathcliff. Heriton then just gets turned into a slave boy. Like Heathcliff's like, I don't care about you anymore. You're a slave in this place. Like you are just a with the groundskeepers. He doesn't get to read or anything like that, and he really wants to read. All right, let's fast forward back to where I was. Are you keeping up with me?
I'm keeping up. I'm keeping up.
Okay, so you got in Wuthering Heights. You've got Heathcliff. You've got his son. I can't remember. I only read it the other month.
There's a
I
lot of
can't remember.
characters.
There's a lot of characters.
A
You've
lot
got
more than the film.
Heriton, and then in Thrushcross Range, you got Nellie. You got Catherine, and you got Edgar. And Edgar's getting unwell. Like he's gonna die soon, and basically Heathcliff kind of like manipulates his son and Kathy into kind of forming a bit of a relationship. It gets split up because Edgar's like, Heathcliff's evil, like don't go over there, stay here. And then there's like an exchange of letters where they're kind of seeing each other in secret. And then Nellie has to cut that off, and I think she goes and tells Edgar, and every time a letter comes through she puts it in the fire. So that's where you can see where the
Right.
film is taking certain elements of the
Oh, it's
second
literally
half of
just
it.
got a bit of ribbon out, and it's cut
Yeah,
the biggest bit of the ribbon off, and just left you with the
yeah,
little thing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Nellie and Catherine take a walk in the moors one day, and Heathcliff comes upon them, and they're like, "Oh God, Heathcliff, I'm not allowed to like be anywhere near this horrible person." And he's like, "Oh, my son's really ill. I know I have fondness for him, but like, can you come and help?" And so they I think they reluctantly kind of head over to Wuthering Heights, where he's then like, "Ha ha, you are trapped here. I've kidnapped you, and I'm going to force you to marry my son." Which happens. Edgar dies. He then, because Catherine is married to his son, he then has ownership over Thrushcross Range. His son then dies, and then Catherine's just left there to be there, a bit of a
Wow.
housekeeper. He's horrible to her as always, even though she's got a bit more like kind of sass in her,
Okay.
like her mother, and pushes back. But the whole book is told through like a character called Lockwood, who's being
Yes.
recounted the story by Nellie. And when he hears when this part of the book finishes, he's like, "Oh God, I can't rent Thrushcross Range from Heathcliff anymore. Like, I don't want to be here. He's a horrible person. I'm leaving." And he goes, but he happens upon, like in his travels, he's back in the area, and he's just like, "I'm going to go find out what's going on." And there's nobody in Thrushcross Range, but there is Nellie in Wuthering Heights now, and she tells him that they found Heathcliff in the moors, and he died. Like he had like almost completed his revenge, but was still kind of haunted by Catherine. Was constantly seeing like visions of her, and just went crazier and crazier. But now Kathy has kind of fallen in love with Heriton,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's very like cousiny. The whole book is very
Yeah.
cousiny, and she's now teaching him how to read. So there's like a little light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Very very little light for all the cost of blood and tears. Yeah. So it does.
Sorry, that was probably the worst retelling of Wuthering
It's
Heights
okay.
because I started from the halfway point and then rewound a little bit as well.
Yeah, sorry for getting you down that rabbit hole. I guess I was sort of like just trying to see like the overall feeling at the end of it, like the
You're
emotional
like
feeling that you get at the end of it. But no, I feel like I'm way more suited to like talk about the movie now because that it makes my initial feeling of watching Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights be like, this is regarded as one of the literary greats of the biggest novels like ever to be written in terms of thematically rich and what's going on here. This film um takes a very small slice of what you've just mentioned,
Mhm.
and only the romantic element, and even that is arguable.
Yep.
Um, and it makes it the film. I mean, and we end our film on a sweet note of a montage of them through the years of being young kids together, and all can't remember all those sweet, lovely
Yeah.
times that they
If
had.
only time had and wealth had not gotten involved, everything would have
Yes,
been perfect and we would have been together.
yeah,
And yeah, it's almost as if yeah, they've taken away so much of the subtext that it's like we're clinging on to something here because I guess in a way because of the way they've cast it, because of the way they've stripped the race element out of it, um, it is very much like, oh, it's a story about class now. But even that is kind of it's just loose, isn't it? It's like very loose. It's like, oh, in this house there are nice things, and in this house there are not nice things.
yeah, yeah.
And
When you
class
go
is a very big part of it in the book as well. Class is very much a big part of it, but it is, yeah, it's like a mixture of things rather than just that.
Yeah, when you were talking earlier about like what we were talking about earlier, adaptations and like whether something should stick strictly to its source material. I do feel like this strays so far away from what you've just mentioned that maybe just don't call it Wuthering Heights. But there's the pessimist in me that kind of thinks all the decisions that were kind of made to be make it called Wuthering Heights, to cast Jacob Elordi in this role, to cast everybody in this movie, I suppose. It feels the pessimist in me kind of sees it as a financial decision. Like everything behind this movie kind of feels commercial in a way that just seems a little bit grotesque. I think the movie just feels grotesque to me in general. Some of
It's
those
a story about feelings. It's about vibes and feelings more than anything else, and it's because it's not subtle.
no, I
And
mean
I
the opening of the film is very like it's very overt, but in a way where you're like, okay, if I'm, it starts off with a heining of a man who is also experiencing an asphyxiated erection, and everybody's kind of like, laughing and enjoying in this misery.
yes,
So
and
we're in this
also the violence of the hanging is like turning everybody on a bit, and the whole
from
town is kind of
grandmother
like
to
groping each other.
yeah. It's almost musical theater, the opening scene. It
Yes,
has
very
this
much
almost
so.
like 18 rated Les Miserables sort of feeling to the beginning of it. And then we get this like really like the music's kind of pulsating and there's a beat to it, and we're going towards Wuthering Heights, and we go almost these Star Trek like angular cliff faces pointing in opposing directions, and we're like almost on another planet.
Very
And I'm
Tim
like,
Burton-esque, I found the kinda, like, visual styling of Wuthering Heights itself, which is not
yeah,
how I pictured it in the books.
yeah,
But I don't care,
It's
right?
like it's like Charlie Bucket's house where it's just like we got these like slated roofs and everything is pointing in angular positions, and it looks like a stop motion set off like a Tim Burton Henry Selick movie. But yeah, I was sort of leaning in, going like, "Ooh, okay, like right, I don't mind whenever you're doing something different and it's going somewhere, pulsating." And
Mhm.
I felt the idea of like the emotional through line of like, right, I'm going to just speak with my heart here and kind of try to translate this in the best way possible. But every time Emerald Fennell does something interesting that kind of raises an eyebrow, I actually think she equally, just as many times, does something that's kind of conventional. There's a lot of like just conventional snooziness of what people don't like about period dramas that I think kind of riddle this. The di- I- Everything from the dialogue
Dialogue.
to just like how the story moves along doesn't feel surprising in any way. It
No.
feels like we're just sort of like, I I
I
know
thought
where this is going the whole time. you've just got these two people who are so toxically passionate about each other in a way that they cannot humanly navigate, and everybody else in their life is collateral. That yes, I get what you're saying. In this time period, these people's lives are so internal. Like they're so locked to these two locations or to this one location that everything is larger than life. Every emotion you're experiencing is way over the top. But and it tries to justify that, and everybody else is collateral. But it just ends up experiencing two people who are severely, severely unlikable. And
Yes,
uh,
which is kind of correct
yeah,
if you were going like, is this a faithful adaptation? Like they are not
it
supposed to
but
be
not for
likable.
where she wants you as a filmmaker to end
Yeah.
up feeling about these characters at the end with
Yes.
this, emotional her sitting at the end of the bed and her imagining a young Heathcliff back in the day
Mhm.
holding her ankle and a montage of them being lovely and romantic and sweet together.
Mhm.
And we've just experienced them just being so cold and full of malice to the point that they actually change the personality and to the detriment of people around them. Like
Yes.
we have a girl who's literally tied up pretending to be a dog because of these two people's behavior. Um but and it tries to justify it with Martin Clunes as the father of
Yeah.
character, and I
I li
enjoyed his
I liked
performance.
him. I
Yeah.
liked it. And as much as kind of like it's weird to see that character kind of mashed together with the brother, and it kind of makes sense, like you just said a minute ago. There's a lot of characters, so I can
Yeah.
see why for the sake of
There's a lot of
time.
streamlining in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did like Martin Clunes. I thought he was great. I
Yeah,
thought he was
and
great.
when he comes back later on,
Yeah.
and his teeth are all rotten, he's like Gollum mixed with a Jim Henson character.
Yes.
He's just
Yeah.
like something came out of like the Muppets Christmas Carol, and like he's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think going back to like what you said, like it doesn't like it's trying to be modern but it's also in the trappings of this and it's also a bit of that and so but I think this film just doesn't know what it wants to be
it also is like
and
it's also in love with old movies. It's in love with golden age Hollywood.
yeah,
When we have like the scene of Heathcliff riding away, and we get this beautiful, almost like map painting of like a sunset in the background, or we get is it Thrushcroft? Um,
thrush cross range.
Thrushcross Range. Whenever
I
we
hope
see
I'm
that,
getting that right.
whenever we see the montage of them enjoying, Kathy kind of like in her gilded cage, kind of like going through her life of exuberance, and the whole house looks like a Mr. Kipling like French fancy, basically. Where it's all decadence, and we get snow, we get snow covered landscape of a Christmas time, and it
Yeah.
feels like you're watching an old Hollywood soundstage, and we're like, oh, we're kind of in love with that as well, but we can't choose whether to be
Yeah.
contemporary or old
I
fashioned here.
mean, visually, it is a stunning film. Like, it
It,
looks great. The
it
sets are
really is.
fantastic. I like all the production side of this and what they're going for. I
Albeit though,
don't.
do you ever feel the sense of place though? Do you ever feel like I never felt connected to the land? Like I feel that the Yorkshire Moors are like a really big part of this
Yeah, yeah.
story and have been in every adaptation. And we know, through reading about Emily Bronte online, that she was in love. She was in love with the Moors, and she would walk there all the time,
Mhm.
and it becomes a really big backdrop of the story. But I never really felt a sense of geography in this whole story at all. I felt like we were just on these sets. Um, where I was never really in love with them, and I'm not sure I really like the overt production design of her having the wallpaper in her room that is supposed to resemble her skin, and Jacob
Yes.
Elordi then licking the skin on the walls, and I don't know, it's
It's
all
shocking.
it's and then when Martin Clunes passes away, and we get like almost these CGI gin bottles like tarred above him, and just like okay,
Yes.
we already know that he drank too much. I don't need
Yes.
to see
But, I
this.
mean, the whole film, even in, like, the way it's cast is all about, because it doesn't like, if you were to be faithful to the book, none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
Like why like the age difference between Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie, even though they're supposed to be very much the same age, even in the film.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's like ten years in real life, right?
yeah, but it's kind of like I'm casting them because they're hot and they're
Mhm.
stars, and we want hot stars kissing each other in this film because that is romance on a Hollywood level scale. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that I've race swapped these people because it's not about that. It's about like who is hot and who represents wealth and who does this.
Yeah.
So it's very much it's like a surface level thing. It's like a surface level thing.
Yeah.
And I think like if the film, because in hindsight, the most kind of like butchered part of the story is the first half. You know, different castings, lots of sex, all this kind of stuff that isn't really there in the books. Even like the location of Wuthering Heights doesn't feel right.
It's
That
like it feels
actually,
like it's on top of a cliff face in this.
yeah,
It feels. I don't feel like I'm on the moors when I'm on at the house or anything. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so but in hindsight, like that stuff, like it kind of works if you were, but for somebody who's read the book, or anybody who loves the book, that's the part of the film where you're like, oh, okay, I'm having to like recalibrate my mind. So in hindsight, that kind of works if you not think of it as Wuthering Heights. And also, like, there's this theme that's very much present in the very opening with the sex and the violence and the death and how they correlate, and you know, in this world, how the two kind of combine and become, you know, become this kind of sexual awakening for Kathy, and what she likes and what she feels pleasure from. And but then that's just kind of dropped in the second half, and it just returns to being like a sweepy romance with a big like sexual affair montage in the middle. Which, can I just say, there is no sex in the books. I don't even
Mm.
know if they kiss. I think it's just that always like always out of reach, like
Oh, it
just
become
there.
it be they're like sexual escapades in the second half of the film of them like just like they basically just develop a kink for cucking Edgar, basically.
Yeah, and it
And
doesn't make you like them anymore, does
it doesn't
it?
make you like him
No.
anymore. Yeah, and you actually become a little bit like desensitized to it. Like I actually didn't find the film like that erotic or arousing in any way, and I guess like Saltburn did have provocation that kind of worked, but this feels like we're just like, oh, people like that. I'm gonna do the exact same close-ups of people's backs sweating,
Mm,
slugs on windows, and I'm like. It feels like empty calories, you know. I don't feel like I'm getting like it's coming out of somewhere that was like pulsating and there from the beginning. It just kind of
yeah.
comes out of nowhere. I'm just like, oh, but it's just like soft porn, you know,
Yes.
in a
It
way that
feels like a
lacks.
production note, doesn't it? In terms of like Emerald Fennell, you're about to adapt Wuthering Heights. Now, what did everybody love about Saltburn? They love this kind of like shocking provocation,
Mm.
you know, this idea. And maybe it's worth saying, like, I quite liked Saltburn. I thought Saltburn was a good fun film that unravels itself in the end in a way that kind of like leaves you with probably a bitter
Yeah,
taste about the film,
agreed.
more so than, like, the actual enjoyment of watching it for the most part. I was pretty much digging it.
Yeah,
But obviously, you know, it had a cultural moment, and that cultural moment was like the shocking things that happened. You know, as soon as it went on Amazon Prime, it was like all of a sudden everybody had seen it, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, Jacob Elordi's bathwater! Oh my
yeah.
god, he's naked at the end."
But
Not Jacob Elordi, unfortunately. Uh,
you can't help but feel a little bit a bit of a sting in the tail whenever this film is doing very well, and that's because it's the director of Saltburn, and it has the marketing of it being a sexy affair, and it's and but if this film was done, it was done by Andrea Arnold, and like, if it was done by a filmmaker who we absolutely love and knew he would do some
we
sort of 3-hour amazing job with this thing.
It's been done by Andrea Arnold.
That's what I mean. It's been
Oh,
done like
sorry.
example, we know it's been done by a filmmaker who is of artistic prowess and would do something nuanced and non egotistical about it.
Mhm.
Nobody would go to see it, unfortunately, and
Yes.
that's well, there would be, but it would be a fraction, a portion of the audience that this has got,
Yeah.
and
I
so
don't I don't
yeah,
mind that it's doing well.
I don't mind that it's doing well, but I'm just kind of worried that the period pieces have to have a gimmick about them to
Mm.
make them survive in the box office.
So,
Um,
so although like critically it's quite mixed. Some people are loving that it's like this grandiose thing, and I get that. Audience wise, there seems to be seem to be a little bit more like towards it. There's a bit more positivity.
Sure.
So like maybe the question is like, why is it hitting for some audiences more than others?
I think
Um,
Emerald Fennell as a filmmaker has managed to tap into the market of provocation in mainstream that nobody else has hit. And I think for people, critics who are used to seeing movies that are quite often shocking or provoking, are finding this like the Bud Light version of that. That they've seen this before, and it's maybe to general audiences this is tantalizing and unexpected, but we've like as a large body of people who've seen who watch movies most days have seen this many times before. So
yeah.
I think it's a gap in the market, really.
I think it is a gap in the market, and I also think so. This is my kind of thought. So in the cinema screening I saw, there was actually like people in tears at the end.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
really?
like sobbing. And I know that like when Em went to the bathroom afterwards, she was like there were people crying in the bathroom. Now they might not have just seen Wuthering Heights, but I don't know what else came out that weekend. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
no, yeah.
I do think this is capitalizing on something that we don't get in mainstream cinema a lot, which is female yearning. And
Okay.
this is just me as a straight white man. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah, 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 of course.
like maybe it didn't work for me because of that, but I do think there is a yearning, especially from women, that in media is usually poked at and made fun of. And I
Mhm.
think here it's treated with sincerity. And I know you said that you didn't like find it like that hot or erotic. I think there are some scenes which are like quite sexy.
Okay.
Um so and I think it hits. I think if you're vibing with the film, those scenes probably hit a lot more. You and I
Sure.
were not vibing with the film, so
Mhm.
therefore we kind of feel a little bit cold in those scenes. But if you're digging it, then those scenes are going to work for you. And I do think that maybe there is it is just capitalizing on something that like I said gets made fun of, but is treated with utmost sincerity here.
Yeah. Like, it's interesting what you say about yearning. I do think, obviously, it's a film about both male and female yearning,
Hmm.
but I do think Heathcliff kind of comes on top in this story barely in terms of like being the character who has had the most reason to become a monster.
Yes.
Um, so I do feel like the yearning and the longing kind of comes from him mostly, and that Kathy just kind of, for lack of a better term, comes off as spoiled. So yeah, I'm interested to see, but I do think it's those musical moments. There are a few montage scenes in the film that use music quite well, and I do think that they are surface level. And I do feel like some people might just vibe with those and get emotion from them, and that's how the film kind of ends. And
Yeah.
maybe for even the film might not have worked. Maybe that's like and that's enough. But you have to kind of look inward sometimes and think, yes, this scene is quite cool and provoking, and like I this is the film here. This is her idea, what you're presenting to me musically, but it's not working. It hasn't accumulated to this. I haven't
Mm.
built up to this in any way. So it all falls a little bit flat and cold. And we're going sex scene to sex scene to sex scene. I'm just like, I'm just getting the same thing over and
Yeah.
over again. And I'm, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. I
It's
am kind of.
for a film that's 2 hours and 15 minutes. We got to say more things in this.
Yeah, I think I am playing devil's advocate to an
Oh,
extent,
absolutely.
but I do think that we are exposed to more cinema than like the general public because of our kind of love for film. So therefore, we have seen a lot of films about kind of female sexual awakening and all that kind of stuff. Um, so it doesn't come across as like shocking or different to us. But if you think about it, like a big budget Hollywood film,
Yeah.
blockbuster coming out on Valentine's Day, dealing with that kind of stuff that is very much about sexual awakening, I can see why it's working for audiences
Yeah.
who are like, oh wow, I've never seen this. Like, oh, I've never seen these kind of feelings that which maybe because of our kind of society I'm kind of keeping internal, kind of depicted on this big story thing. To me, I think the film like feels a bit shallow at times, and I felt no emotion at the
Yeah.
end because these are two unlikable people, and I never rooted once for them to be together. You
And
know?
and there's even like even the lighter elements to the film, there are like stabs at humor quite often. Didn't really work. And I felt they were almost like they were almost very simplistic and childish. Like Kathy's on a tree, like, "Oh, get me down, or I shall die." And like I'm like, hilarious. And like Isabella, as a tertiary character, that is a very big trope of period dramas in general,
Mm.
to have the other girl in the house that kind of is the bystander of our main female protagonist. And it's supposed to be that she's the ditzy one. He's not as attractive, um apparently. And yeah, and is there for the laughs and the jokes. I've seen that done a lot better in period dramas too. And everything is just heavy. Edgar is sort of there, and Nellie is a plot device. I don't think Colin Chow really gets to like
Yes.
do much with that character. Yeah.
And she is then villainized in this film in a way that she isn't in the book.
Oh,
Like you got to read into the book in a way that like she's recalling a story, so therefore she is an unreliable narrator.
sure.
But she definitely does not. I
She becomes an accidental Disney villain by the end of it. Yeah.
Yes, like the scene where Heathcliff overhears part of what Kathy is saying. I don't think it's as villainous in the book. It's very much like, Kathy, wait, Heathcliff's there, but she can't get a word in, kind of thing. Uh,
Brilliant, brilliant.
and yeah,
But in the movie, it's like it's like a moment
spiteful
of
and
semi
petty.
spiteful.
Yeah,
"Oh, fuck, you
because
deserve this."
because
So,
she
yeah.
dislikes Kathy, because Kathy's horrible, and she is kind of horrible in the books as well.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting one. Um, but yeah, they definitely villainize Nelly. But I guess they got to do it somehow to be like, oh, if only, because that is what this film is. When it ends, it's like, if only.
Yeah. If I didn't ah, if he didn't listen to me if he listened 10 seconds more and heard me say I love him,
Ah,
it would have been all different. God.
crazy. And then you wouldn't have broken your own heart, and in doing so, broken my heart.
That was very brave. But it was good. It was good. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. There's a character in the books, Joseph, who is in this adaptation as well, but it's all kind of phonetically spelt because in the books he is like very low working class, so therefore he has a very thick accent,
Yeah.
and I could not make out a word of what he was saying. I'm
Just like
trying to read these bits in the book, and then there is like a glossary every now and then, so like there'll be a word that like doesn't get used a lot anymore, and you can go back to the glossary and
oh,
be
that's
like,
cool.
oh, that's okay, that means that. But even with Joseph's stuff, even with that, I do not know what he's saying. I was trying to put on a northern accent and like read it out loud to see if I could phonetically get.
Speed it
No,
up,
I
speed it
just
up,
messed
slow it
up.
down sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I just went straight into Scottish then. It's quite difficult getting the northern accent sometimes.
Have you ever like just went on like those there's a guy on YouTube who goes like through all the different dialects in like English history and goes like decade to decade, century to century, and he's an expert on it, and he'll like take you through all the phonetics and dialogues of the time, and the way they were pronounced, and it's really fascinating. Like English 1,000 years ago is crazy. Like
Mm,
you can't understand it at all.
yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really fascinating.
Mm,
Yeah, like I guess like a thing that's also really appealing to people might be just that it's a movie that's sort of like about desire, and it's about sex, and has some like that character Joseph, even though it's like a moment of like like them listening in on a bit of S&M, is
mm,
like a consensual sex positive moment that you think is going to start off like becoming a very sinister thing, but just, oh no, these two people just having a kinky moment. And then
yes.
but they operate very high functionally outside of this moment, and very polite and nice people. um
Yeah.
but
I didn't know
maybe
what
and
the
maybe
film
pe-
was trying to say there either, because the sex between working class characters is like kinky and exciting, and then in the upper class with Edgar, it's like boring and vanilla.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The movie just kind of presents it as a moment for her to feel justified in her own sexuality, to witness something else and be like, yeah, like these feelings I have aren't monstrous, and I can like
Mm,
have these private moments too. And then she shares that with Heathcliff of
mm.
his hand covering her mouth, my.
Yeah.
It's
It shows you though that like some of that stuff in the first like third is like quite interesting. Like it's like if you kept this up, if you made the film about this, then it would be a more interesting film. Still would be controversial because it completely like bastardizes the book, but it is interesting. You are trying to say something. But the film kind of then is like, oh no, actually I kind of want to go back to like what Wuthering Heights is. And the second half of
mm,
the film is quite close-ish to what happens in the book. So but when you have everything like butchered at the start and you're taking away everything before that, when it does go back, it's like it doesn't really fit into place perfectly well.
mm.
Um, what do you think? What do you obviously I know you didn't love the Isabella character, but what do you think about that relationship with um Heathcliff near the end? Because I know a lot of people who love the book think that that is like a horrible way of kind of taking an abusive relationship and like twisting it on its head to be like she wants to be there. I think in the context of the film, I actually quite like it. Like I think it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But like only in the context of the film, I think.
Yeah, again, I don't know if the movie does a good enough job of getting you over to the line of her becoming a complete submissive pet to him overnight, but I do feel that she does the job quite well of like portraying somebody who might be aroused by something that is like completely different to her life, where she is just
Mm,
kind of like offhandedly like, oh, it's silly Isabella just up to doing her ribbons or whatever.
mm.
Um, that she has a little bit more depth to her, and it did wake me out of my slumber a little bit when Jacob Elordi spitefully goes to her bedroom and, like, forces her into marriage. Well, sort of
'Cause
consensual
that's it. It
forcing.
always
He's
undercuts
like,
like
"I'm giving you." You can say he says, like, "Oh, do you want me to stop?" Like, "I'm giving you the power right now to
yeah.
stop me," but, like, I am he is a presence. Like, he is, like, I think the costume design is really cool in this too. Like, every time he's wearing, like, a lawn shirt, it's like cascading off of him. Like, it kinda reminds you of when he played the monster in
Mm,
Frankenstein recently, where he is just, like, this very elongated, ghoulish, but very obviously very handsome
mhm.
presence. And like, for lack for maybe not the right choice for this film, in a period setting, like he is quite striking as a visual
Yes.
presence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think the Isabella relationship also, like, never allows Jacob Elordi to, like, fully become evil Heathcliff.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like he has her as sort of slavishly chained up at home, acting like a dog in one scene, like lost her mind, and the next scene she's writing a letter for him in a very like, oh, like frustrated friend way, and it's like, what is the relationship here? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
It's
There's a
like
lack of
I
consistency.
think it's supposed to be like a submissive, relationship, but, like, she's consensually agreeing to it, I think.
Hmm.
But then at
I,
the end, she still kind of flees, like, Nellie helps her flee in that little montage.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
confusing. I feel like Emerald Fennell read Wuthering Heights, had a crush on Heathcliff, and kind of, like, didn't want him to be horrible, like, wanted to give him,
Hmm.
like a misunderstood, um, oh, it's not fully his fault, which is fair. I guess, like, you can read it and be like, "Why, Heathcliff? Why are you doing this?"
Is
Um,
but all the things you were talking about in the novel, and when you were talking about it in like the second half of the book, and all these different elements, like that's what I really like out of period drama. I really like the political intrigue. I like the backstabbing, the pettiness, all these conversations of people playing each other like puppet masters, and like details. I really like. I shouldn't get hung up on details, but I wanted to know how Heathcliff made his money. Like I wanted to know like
yes.
he goes away, he comes back, he's rich, but, like, he's rich, but he's spending, like, a year of his life doing nothing. Like, he's just, like, hanging around, buying the manor, and just, like, brooding over it. I'm like, I wanted to know his story. I wanted to know, like,
Yes.
what life he made for himself after
Yeah.
he ran away.
You don't know in the book either. He does just come back and he's
Okay.
rich. And there's, kind of like people have kind of like historically tried to pinpoint what he might have done and gone over to like America and done something, all kinds of stuff,
Got
joining the
into industry or
military.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, lots of interesting stuff. which again, but plays more into the race thing. So like when you,
Exactly.
but when you make the film about class, and then all of a sudden Heathcliff is rich, then there is more of a like, I can't just be like, I'm just going along with this now. You do want to know more because it's like you've
He,
specifically
he
made this about class.
he ran away because when you have a physical representation of him running away on horseback without a saddle and just a shirt on his back with no with no luggage or anything, you're like, I guess he's going to die,
Yeah, yeah.
like out in the moors.
I
Um,
think you could have, if they had like not ended with Kathy losing the child,
yeah,
and uh,
yeah, with
you had
her,
Isabella flee, and you had Kathy have Kathy. Um, you could then set this up for a sequel that maybe does a bit of a Godfather 2 thing, so that you
yeah,
can get more Heathcliff in it. Is to have it be a prequel and a sequel, and see how Heathcliff got his wealth and see how the story continues. You
yeah,
could do something like that. Not to be a producer here, but like this film's making money. People are loving it. You could do that again. There's a lot of yearning in the second part of the book as well. If you want to keep the yearning going.
yeah. And then we have Kathy and when she passes away with the child in bed, and then you
Covered
get
in
the
leeches.
yeah, the leeches making like an angel's wings and like, it's just it doesn't quite work, does it? But I feel like Emerald Fennell would make such a great music video about Wuthering Heights.
She does.
Yeah, she does. Make a 10-minute like music video of people riding on horses and like in the lightning storm and
Mm.
and all these dresses like cascading in the wind in the Yorkshire moors. Awesome, fantastic. That captures a feeling, I guess, an idea. But
Or just make a visual companion to the Charlie XCX album. Say, Charlie XCX, I want to work on an album that is like that is thematically about Wuthering Heights, and have this kind of visual companion alongside it, directed by Emerald Fennell, and that
that
could
would
have been
work.
cool. That could have been cool.
Yeah, I
And
would
it's
like to
not
see
that.
that.
We haven't really spoken about the song so much, but they just kind of like, they're not used enough to justify it. Like
Yeah,
the opening scene is great. Chains of Love is a great song that's put in there, but it is just like every time we get a XCX song, it is just a montage. It is just a music video moment, and it's like, all right, here we go, onto another montage, onto another. I would have loved to have seen them used more interestingly, and then again in the second half of the film, they kind of dropped.
I quite liked the moments when they used, there were 1 or 2 uses of traditional song in this
Yes.
that were, like, almost aiding Kathy in a way to almost like, "Right, okay, this is speaking about her internal monologue in a way that's almost warm." And that could invite me to like her before the scene afterwards. It just goes back
Mhm,
into
mhm.
business as usual. I really liked those moments, and I felt like they had a really nice visual language to them and a tenderness where it was just like, it was going back to the traditional in a way that felt, I don't know, like I would like to see more of this in the film.
Mhm, mhm.
I enjoyed those moments, and I don't think they're getting enough clout when people are
Mm.
talking about the film, as well. But yeah, it was cool. The musical moments were definitely what I came away enjoying from this. And you're right, I wanted more of that. Almost make this movie just like like I said, like a big Charlie XCX album in a way, and like I don't know, like take away some of that pointless, crappy dialogue that wasn't really working. And I don't know, there's something here. There's something here. The tools are here, but under a different master might have worked a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. Jury's out for me on Emerald Fennell still.
Same.
Like, all of her films I've kind of liked a bit.
Yes.
Saltburn probably being the one I've liked the most. But yeah, she can't, for me, she doesn't quite stick the landings. That's not to say that, like, I can completely dismiss her as a director. I do think she has an interesting visual style and some interesting stuff going on. I do think she maybe needs to, because she seems to be very interested in picking apart the class structure of, like, Britain, especially in her last 2 films.
And I'm
Um,
very interested in how it relates to her and her own upbringing and her
yeah.
own memories.
She's
Yeah.
very, very wealthy from a very well-to-do family. She is in the upper class.
Yeah.
Um, but, like, she can't seem to quite, I don't seem to quite, like, understand what she's trying to say about class. So maybe she just needs to, like, move on to something else.
Well, I would love to see her do something where she's like a director for hire or, do something that's she's not emotionally like heavily invested in, and
Mhm.
just to see how she manages that, that could be
You wanna see
interesting.
her do a Marvel film.
I don't. You know what? If she did a Marvel film, it would be probably the last thing. That would be a terrible business decision. Um, I do think she might just become a filmmaker where it's like, oh, the new Emerald Fennell film's coming out. She's got something else like interesting and weird that people are gonna like flock to see.
Yeah, like,
Um,
lightly shocking enough to bring you to the cinema.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see where this goes next, but yeah, she's got, a bit of a trilogy that like a non-related trilogy, but sort of related trilogy going on here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I
yeah,
will s it
fascinating.
yeah, it is interesting to see, like, we've both come to the same conclusion despite coming at this film from, slightly different angles. Um,
Yeah, that is
but,
interesting.
I
Like,
sometimes I feel
you're
like maybe
watching
the worst thing I could have done is read the book
yeah,
before this film.
but I'm not sure about that 'cause, when I'm watching the film, everybody knows what Wuthering Heights the idea of what Wuthering Heights kind of is, at least from the outset, and when you're watching this film, you're like, there's gotta be more to that. This is one of the literary greats, like I said before. I'm getting something very thin here, and this is obviously just a snapshot. And even by reading the book, it's a frustrating experience to experience that anyway.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
agreed, agreed. I have a list here
Mm,
of, like, adaptations that, like, have very much uh, diverted away from the source material, so the books that they're adapted from. But obviously, kind of either retain the essence or are just good enough in their own rights that people love them. So I thought maybe if we go through this little list I
sure.
found and tell me what you think. The Shining being number one, a
Oh
film
yeah.
hated by the author
Well, it's
Stephen
funny.
King.
I actually watched the interview. I think it was on Letterman in the night in the either the late '80s or early '90s that Stephen King gave his opinion on the film, and he said so he didn't say that he outwardly hated it. He said that like sometimes I watch it, I'm like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. This is such a beautiful movie, and then over times he's like, I want to wring, paraphrasing here, but I want to rein in like Kubrick's neck. So he was very divided about how he felt about the film, and I think as the years gone on, he's changed his opinion on it a little bit more.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, no, that is a film that's very different from its novels. But I think Stephen King adaptations are kind of that's not uncommon. Yeah,
yes. Well, look at our one of our recent episodes, The Running Man, and how different those two films are.
yeah,
And then neither of us have read the original Running Man book, but apparently Edgar Wright's is more closely related to it.
yeah,
But yeah, uh, Jaws is another film adapted
yeah.
from a book.
I've read the Book of Jaws.
Oh, okay. So you can tell us firsthand. Apparently, very different, right?
Very different. That book is a lot more about the town, a
Yeah,
lot more about the dynamics of people having like affairs and stuff. There's a really great allegory that always kind of stuck with me in that book, which was really cool. And it was a fisherman who cut open it was an allegory for how a shark behaves. It's a metaphor for how it behaves and what it thinks like, and it doesn't discern. It's like the alien, the xenomorph and alien. It's like it doesn't think with prejudice, or it just kills. So a fisherman cuts open a shark's body while it's still alive, and when frozen in the water, it eats its own entrails. That is that is a metaphor for a shark. It sees blood and you're dead. And I thought things like that in the book really stuck with me. It's great too, but I mean, like the movie is so good, right?
yeah,
I love
yeah.
the movie. It's so
Well, I
great.
think I think both with like The Shining and Jaws. There, it's like we are like creating an iconic film anyway.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's something to do with the horror of it all. But
And Kubrick's never just going to make a straight adaptation of your novel.
no, no. Was Barry Lyndon an adaptation of a novel? Of a novel? Do we know? It feels like it should be.
If I mean, that'd be yeah, it feels bad to like be shrugging my shoulders at that right now,
Yeah,
but see, considering that we watched it fairly recently, um, it feels like it, right?
yeah.
Do we want to
Ah.
check that?
Do we want to check that? Yeah, Barry Lyndon plays a part in the in the Housemaid film. I watched that recently.
Oh,
You know, the Amanda Seyfried, Sydney Sweeney one. Uh,
So, The Luck of Barry Lyndon, originally published in 1844. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's interesting. The character is like one of the main like husband male character in The Housemaid is like, oh, he goes downstairs to his room and he loves film. Like he'll give you an essay on like why Barry Lyndon's underappreciated. I was watching the film, I was like, this guy's never seen Barry Lyndon.
He just looks like a Chad out of a Hallmark movie or something, does he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brendan Skiller, you might have watched Barry
This
Lyndon.
guy's got a six pack. He's not watching Barry Lyndon.
Blade Runner is
Yeah.
another film.
I dream Dreams of Electric Sheep.
Do
Yeah.
Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Yeah, very
Yeah.
different. Apparently, Let the Right One In is quite different to the book that it's adapted from. We both
Oh,
like those
interesting.
films, or there's an American and the
Swedish.
Swedish.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Swedish film's brilliant. Yeah.
Some say the Lord of the Rings is quite different from its source material. So
Yeah.
I would argue that, like, apart from taking a few elements out and like shifting a couple of things around, it is quite faithful from what I
Mm.
remember reading as a child.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, Tolkien is like a very flowery, pretty writer and very
mm,
descriptive writer. And I guess, the movies can't be that. They have to be they're kind of action movies at
mm.
times too. Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
Never read the book.
Never
Yeah.
read the book either. So there you
But
go.
then there's also like those type
Apparently,
of
the book is
adaptations.
darker, isn't it? It's like it's a bit more of a horror film.
Mm. Like I really like when adaptations kind of came a bit of a thing more 10 years ago. When you get things like the Green Knight, where we're taking like, or Beowulf or something like that. It's like we're taking a poem or like a short story, and we're filling in the gaps, and we're blowing up to be something a little bit more powerful or
Yeah.
bigger than it is. I like that. Like even Stand by Me, one of the Stephen King's books, is like The Body, I think, is the short story
Mm,
it's based on. We're blowing that up and we're making it something else. And
yeah.
I think that's interesting because we're not like having to slavishly devote ourselves to a fan base, but we're like, oh, that's such a great idea. Like we can build on that,
Yeah.
that works.
Where that didn't work, The Hobbit.
The Hobbit, yeah.
Yeah.
Taking
Taking a
a
short book.
300-page book and making it three
Yeah.
films. Yeah.
I love like when like I was into like when the Lord of the Rings films were coming out and I was like, I've got to read the books. I actually quite struggled with the Lord of the Rings books. They are very difficult reads.
Mm.
However, The Hobbit is quite an easy read. And
Mr.
I
Tom
loved The
Bombadil.
Hobbit. I thought it was great. I thought The Hobbit was so much fun.
Yeah. There's a lot more about like relaxing with your friends and eating and in the Hobbit lifestyle in that book
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
It's a pretty straight-laced adventure, isn't it? But, yeah, so there you go. Films that I've got another one here that are super faithful, that worked. So you've got the first Harry Potter film, The Philosopher's Stone,
Mm.
Pride and Prejudice, the,
Pride and Prejudice. Have you seen the Keira Knightley Matthew McFadden film? It is
no, I haven't.
fantastic. It is so good.
There you go.
I would recommend you watch it. It's
Okay.
really good.
You mentioned it earlier in the show, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
And then here are some super faithful adaptations that didn't work, even though they were very kind of faithful to the source material. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I love that Coppola film. I think it's good. It's a lot
I've
of
not
it's a,
seen it, so I don't know.
that's a sexy movie.
uh, Murder on the Orient Express, the recent Kenneth Branagh one.
Yeah. Yeah. Poirot. Yeah.
Here's an interesting one, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. Watchmen or Watchmen.
So never read the graphic novel. I was
I
a big I'm not a Zack Snyder fan at all, but brooding teenager Christopher Steed was loving Watchmen, the movie. I love Rorschach, and I guess I was just a broody teenager and identified with Rorschach looking cool in his trilby, and probably would identify that character differently now. But yeah,
Yeah. I have done both. I watched the film first and I read the graphic novel probably within like the last 10 years. I think the issue here is that it's so visually faithful that it doesn't really have like anything else to say. And for a comic
yeah,
book that is so kind of like breaking down what the comic book world was around it at the time and then kind of pushing it more kind of political leaning, I
It's
think yeah,
superficial, isn't it?
yeah, there was like a superficialness to it. That being said, from what I remember, I enjoyed the film.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
The
interesting to
opening,
see at that time. It was like, wow, a dark adult superhero film. It was like,
it opens up with like a montage, slow motion montage of like Vietnam and with like Bob Dylan, the times they are changing in the background. You're like,
yes,
I think you're 15 years old. You're just like leaning in, like this is
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
leaning in, Doctor Manhattan's dong. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Who could forget? That movie's like 3 hours long as well, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's a long graphic
Yeah.
novel. Yeah.
I played the video game spin-off of that game, and
I
where you
remember
play as
playing the demo. I think I just had the demo. I just
it's
because you're
a
like I
your
can't remember.
Rorschach
You're
and
Rorschach
your
in
Nighthawk.
prison. Yes, in prison, just beating up people, right?
It's just a beat 'em up where you swap between the characters. But if you go later on to the game, they go to a sex dungeon, and it's in a mansion, and you just spend the whole 2 hours of that mansion beating up big guys in like gimp outfits and whacking them with big nightsticks. It's crazy.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
Weird
Uh,
proper. It's a weird property, but I haven't watched the TV show. I heard that's fantastic.
oh yeah, oh man, the TV show is so good, but it's a sequel to the
Mm,
comic book, so it's like not a full adaptation because obviously there is no sequel to the comic book.
yeah.
But oh man, the TV show was fantastic.
Sad I missed that one. I heard such great things about it.
I mean, you're still allowed to go and watch it,
I know I'm
Chris.
still allowed to see it. I just like sometimes you surrender yourself. Like if I wasn't there in the moment, I don't know if I'll ever find the time, but hopefully I'll find the time for that.
Yeah, I think you'd need to read the comic book though. So read the
Mm,
graphic novel and then watch the show. And the
okay.
show is like very like obviously the comic book is like big, and it's like big world stuff. Whereas the TV show is like a little bit more like grounded and quite personal and stuff like
Mm,
that. Doesn't deal with too many like big
like
stake
yeah, Cold
kind of stuff.
War sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
But it's really good and has Hong Chow in it. And that's the first time I remember seeing Hong Chow and being like, "Oh, she's very good."
Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
here we go. Here she is. I don't think she's been like best utilized by Hollywood yet.
Yeah, because we had that and the whale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she's very good. She's very good
It's
in
just two roles I've
Watchmen.
seen her play assistants who are angry at the people that they're assisting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. But there you
Yeah.
go. What do
Yeah,
we what
some
what have we learned?
what have we learned? Adaptations are hard, but they're
Yeah.
always fascinating,
Yeah.
and the build up to them is really fascinating in this case. Um, but yeah, be careful what you invest your time reading before watching the
Yes.
film. No,
Yeah.
it's great that it got, and also it's fantastic that it gets people to pick up the Bronte novel and read it, and
Mm.
have an appreciation for that too, because it might just spawn something else in their literary life where they'll pick up these books and they might read the other Bronte sister books and they might become fans of period pieces in general. So
Mm.
I think it serves in a way it didn't intend to. It serves the public well. You know?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I was happy I read the book, even though it probably wasn't the right time, in terms of like being able to. Yeah, the book definitely holds back the enjoyment of this film,
Yeah. Okay.
in a way that like I really wish it didn't. And I do try and separate as much as I can, but yeah, and I might be setting myself up for failure in the future as well because the book I've just started reading, or I say I just started, I'm nearly finished it already, is Project Hail Mary, which I am loving. I
And
am loving it.
please tell me, are you picturing Ryan Gosling in your head when you're reading the book, or are you trying your hardest to form another face?
I am not, but every now and then I'm like, I'm trying to now picture Ryan Gosling in this space. I've been very good at staying away from the trailers for that film because it was a book that I've
Hi,
won.
every time I go to the cinema, I see the trailer
I've
for it.
I've listened to the trailer many a time, but I've not watched it. So I've been very. I'm like this. I'm like
Are you,
this.
are you
Whenever the
actually?
yeah, I just do this. I'm just like I look down. I look down as the trailer comes on, and I try and think about things so I'm not like fully listening in because I heard that the book is like full of like lots of twists and turns, and it's quite a good read. And yeah, do you know what? I am in love it, like just loving the enjoyment of reading this book. and but I guess the stakes aren't as high because it's not a classic,
Mm.
um, in
That's
terms
a
of
dangerous
adapting it,
thing.
and also I don't know if it like even if they adapt it really well, I
Mhm.
don't know if it'll be like a masterpiece of a film, but in book form, I think it's like riveting and exciting and emotional, and I'm like fully in it. I've heard it's a very good audiobook,
Ooh.
which I could probably I could see it being an audiobook. That being said, I do trust the directors behind it. Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Yeah.
They're good at setting a tone, and if you can get the tone right with this film, it could be fantastic.
And they write Hollywood jokes that are actually funny
Yes, and the
as
book is
well,
humorous. The book is humorous.
which is in keeping with, The Martian was humorous too, so,
Yeah.
um,
Um, I but
yeah.
I don't know. I won't go into this. Uh, I think
That must be frustrating, like,
you
I
have to
understand.
adapt it differently. This book, I think, because it is very like internal a lot of the time. Not always,
Yeah.
but
I guess The Martian was quite internal too.
yeah,
Um, but yeah. I mean, yeah, interested to see this movie, and I love like, I'm with you, I love Lord and Miller as artists, as filmmakers, as writers, so, yeah, that puts a lot of, like, enjoyment into, like, anticipating this film. It's also, like, if you're halfway through a book and you're watching a trailer, and, you could be watching a scene in the trailer and you're like, "Oh, that hasn't happened yet." So you're anticipating that when you're reading the book, but that could also just be an artistic choice of the film. So that might never appear in the book, and you're waiting for something to happen that never will happen. So yeah, it's quite dangerous, murky territory. You have to have pretty good mental fortitude to kind of keep
yeah.
those distractions out of the way.
That being said, I've been having so much fun reading this book. I wouldn't change that.
Flipping heck, man! You've really enjoyed this book, so yeah, I'm looking forward to when I saw the trailers, I was like, this could be fun, could be good. I'm not like completely in the pocket for it yet, but hearing that there's potential in the source material
Mm,
gets me really excited. Awesome.
definitely, definitely. Well, that's an episode that's like 2 or 3 down the line. No, I'm not. It's some point in March, isn't it? So a few episodes away
It
from
comes
that.
quickly.
It
Comes
comes
quickly.
quickly. I'll be able to give you my very butchered retelling of Project Hail Mary on that episode in the same way I did Wuthering Heights. If we start in the middle, go to the end, and then go back to the start, and
I
then go
led you
to
astray.
the
It takes two to tango. I led you astray, but I know it was good for me. I got to learn a lot more about the book today, and it's like none of this we talked about today has put me off ever reading the Bronte novel.
Mm,
I fully intend to someday. It's made me interested to see what's being missing. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
absolutely. Well, that has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating on like any podcast platform that you're listening to this on, or
Yeah.
YouTube. Not that you can do a star rating on YouTube, but like a like and subscribe would be nice.
Hmm.
We do really appreciate that. And if you'd like to keep up to date with us, you can keep up to date with us on TikTok and Instagram at The Film Angle.
And be sure always to catch us next week for more cinematic discussions. We'll be right here as always. Goodbye, Alex.
Goodbye, Kris.
See you later.
Goodbye, friends.
Oh, goodbye, Wuthering Heights for now.
Wuthering, wuthering. Whatever our souls are made of, yours and mine are made of the same.
Oh yeah, class, fantastic.
I'm talking about you.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.